Welcome, everybody, for another edition today. So glad to have you. We are in the heart of New York City today, sitting down with a good friend of mine, Max Mclean, who is really a gem and also a legend in the faith journeys of so many New Yorkers and as well as people around the world. Welcome to the show today, Max.
Thanks, Kenny. Good to be on.
So today, we wanted to get straight to it. I'm excited because I'm actually sitting in the offices here at Redeemer Presbyterian Church, and your office is close by. But your tour and your latest production is back home here in the Big Apple. And I just want to introduce you to a lot of people out there that just might not have had the chance to hear from you in your own voice of the Max Mclean story, the where have you come from, where you're going, etc. So why don't you just spend a minute or two sharing a little bit about your journey and your ministry?
Yes, I'm an adult convert to Christianity. My journey to faith and my career as an actor are kind of parallel. Since I was not raised in the evangelical communion, I didn't know that Christians weren't supposed to be actors. So I found that out a little bit later. But what was very, very interesting is I understood the power of storytelling. Really experienced the power of theater in terms of challenging people's perceptions, engaging their imagination, and shortly thereafter, when I came to Christ, the idea of using the skills and techniques developed in theater and applying it to telling a message from the Christian worldview, first the Bible, and then later on the works of C.S. Lewis. That's become my life's work.
You've produced some amazing productions to date, just one after another, consistently in a serial manner. One of the things that is so appealing to me is just this love affair that you have with C.S. Lewis. Can you share a little bit about what is that spark? What's the driver behind that? And for people that are listening today, wherever they are in their faith journey, right? We have a spectrum of people who have just come to know Christ or might be questioning, to people who have been discipling for many years. What's the relevance of C.S. Lewis in that journey?
Well, there's a couple of things. Because I was an adult convert, I was trained I had a bit of a pessimistic worldview, and certainly was quite skeptical of supernatural claims.
Right.
And so was Lewis. Lewis was also an adult convert. His conversion process began in his mid-20s and was concluded about the age of 32 in terms of his specific faith in Jesus Christ. And so he never forgot what it was like not to believe. And he knew how to write and to communicate. And so he would use his ability to write and communicate to help people who are trying to understand the Christian faith, engage the Christian faith, to come in. And he did it so well that was what immediately attracted me to him. The second thing that attracted me to him is he has a tremendous understanding of spiritual warfare. Screwtape, Great Divorce, and all his works, essentially every one of his works is a kind of retelling of his own conversion story and his resistance to coming to faith in Christ, and the understanding after the fact of the powers and principalities decidedly at work against him knowing God and knowing Christ.
Wow, that's really compelling. I think of all the different productions that you've done so far. This one, I'm scheduled to see it in a week or so in Manhattan. I'm looking forward to this one in particular because of that mix that you bring out in the story for the Reluctant Convert. So why don't we talk specifically about the show? Give us give us the formal details first. It's in New York City. How long is it here for? How long is the show? Is about 80 or 90 minutes, I believe.
Yeah, 80.
And which theater? Just give us some of the details first, and then
Yeah,
just the backdrop.
it's uh, it's at the Acorn Theater, which is the largest theater in Theater Row, which is a block of 6 theaters
Yes.
that has anything from Naked Boys Dancing to the Marvelous Wonderettes to the Most Reluctant Convert. So it's got a broad spectrum of offerings, which is certainly uh, what New York's about. We had our first performance on February 8th. We're scheduled to run through April, at least to April, and perhaps longer. It's obviously depends on how well it does. Um, Everybody loves a conversion story. Uh, Believers like it, and unbelievers actually like it too, because they want to know what is it that compels someone to become a quote unquote true believer, to really commit, because they just don't get it and they want to know
Right.
why,
Right.
want to know
Right.
how. So, and what's good about Lewis is that he has this extraordinary ability to articulate to the detail in a way that is really compelling. So it's not I felt this, or I mean, it certainly has that, but his ability to write and his ability to draw extraordinary visual as well as emotional pictures and intellectual pictures um, make kind of really draws you in. You join him in his resistance and the kind of compelling nature that he can't resist anymore.
Yeah. Um, Very powerful, I think, the way you do it. In fact, I think this, from my understanding, I guess I'll know more when I see it in person. From my understanding, is that the story that you're trying to tell this time around is one that's extremely difficult to pull off, but I think you do it in such an eloquent way as usual. Um, you know, One of the things that I wonder that I wonder if you get any feedback for is that, have you ever even considered modernizing or Americanizing the language? Although I'm sure there's some aspect of it feels like sacrilege to do so. Um,
Well, if you're going to try, because I really try to uh, get into the shoes of Lewis and in his language. Now, you do have to thin it out. There's no doubt about that,
yes,
because his language is very, very dense. But so thinning it out, but it's very, very funny. It's very witty. The turn of the phrase is kind of shocking. So that's kind of the fun part. Um, and he's such an egghead. I mean, he'll talk about my work was mostly was Homer, mostly Latin and Greek. Homer first, oh, still relish the brightness and music of it. Then the two great bores, Cicero and Demosthenes, could not be avoided. Followed by Lucretius, oh, the glory. I mean, he just loves this stuff.
oh, I love that.
And he'll even have some sort of side little comments like, still have no taste for Virgil. And it's funny because who talks like that? He lives so much in his head that uh, that it's very compelling to go on a journey where nothing gets by him. He assumes nothing, and his friendships are very, very important to him. Every book he reads, he devours. I mean, it's almost as if he could, if you tell him what page uh, and say the second
Exactly,
paragraph, he could count what's there. Uh,
exactly.
it's almost too much, but it's kind of thrilling to be in the presence of someone like that. When as soon as I put on the glasses and put on the suit and kind of, I wear a wig that makes me look like him. My IQ goes up like 75 to 100 points.
I love that. Love that. So his language is dense, and I think you've done a good job in the past productions that I've seen of thinning it out and actually making it accessible. Who is the actual target audience for the show? Is it, there's obviously a good church audience that brings people like my local ministry, Covenant Fellowship Church in New Jersey, came out on the 9th of February, going back in March again. Are you tuning the show in particular for people who are familiar with C.S. Lewis's works, or what about those new converts or people who aren't as familiar?
I think my goal, my target audience, is a smart, open-minded unbeliever, seeker, or it could be somebody like you who is looking for an opportunity to share your faith in a way that is perhaps a little unusual.
Yes.
In a setting that doesn't raise any eyebrows. You can go to a theater and sit back and enjoy the show and know that there's not going to be any kind of pressure, and just really engage the imagination. But it's targeted to someone who has thought deeply about this and perhaps just can't get to the other side,
Yes.
or even maybe rejects it, rejects what they know.
Right.
And because that's where Lewis was. He said, "I had Christians placed and disposed of forever." He said that when he was like 16. And of course God had other plans. So it is very, very interesting. Just in the last week, I just wrote on my Facebook page this morning, just recounting some of the Q&As we've had and some of the conversations. One person commented that he thought, and this guy was probably a very, in the tribe, devout believer. He said it was too much reluctance and not enough convert. That was his comment. Another person stood up in the Q&A and was like in a state of stunned, and he said, "I was shocked by what I experienced."
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then somebody else commented, what did they? Somebody asked me if. After seeing the whole piece, and I could tell this person was a believer, said, "Do I think an atheist could experience what Lewis experienced?"
That's a great question.
It is a great question, because it was like Lewis takes you to a very amazing sort of weight of glory, heavenly place in the play, and you're drawn to it, you want it. And so the person said, "Well, I don't want, I want what Lewis has, but I don't want to follow Christ to get there. So I'm wondering if I can get there with no faith." And of course, that's, it's almost a contradiction in terms. And then just yesterday, I had a person who waited for me after the show and just peppered me with all kinds of why God questions.
I love that. I love hearing that.
And then she went on to in the process telling me why she couldn't be a Christian, and I could tell that she was really struggling. And I said to her, not in so many words, but the effect was, I think that God has you in His net, and I don't think He's going to let you go. And she looked at me with a kind of a sense, like a little surprise, a little sense of resignation, and asked me, "What should I do?" And I said, "Well, I suggest you read John's Gospel." And I could kind of tell, like, she said, "Oh, do I really have to do that?" So it's been a really glorious experience.
That's awesome. I think one of the things from my point of view is, well, even just a friend of mine who's seen the show already in New York, said he's such a big fan of C.S. Lewis, and this experience, seeing live theater on stage, was a little bit, he characterized it as, it was kind of like seeing an awesome, superb cover band, playing your favorite hits, right? And for the first time, you're seeing some of the band playing, reciting the number of your favorite passages from Lewis's works originally, but live in person, and it just brought everything full circle for him. So I think that's the type of experience I think that you're able to afford. Inquiring minds, people are struggling with the question, and the people that actually are familiar with Lewis and want to go for the ride, right? I think that's just the genius of the live theater experience for the people.
I'm gonna borrow that metaphor. I think that's a terrific
Oh yeah,
metaphor. It reminded me of one time I went to a club when I was in college, and they were playing this band was covering Steely Dan, and I thought it was Steely Dan. It was so good.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, and I love the fact that, right, so after theater, this is a little bit departure from norms, is that you have a Q&A that is
Yeah.
accessible for everybody. And from my understanding, even I'm sure this season, the percentage of what percentage of people actually stay for
I
the
would
Q&A?
say I would say 2/3 to 3/4
Yeah.
stay. It's I think that people are the theory about theater and any art that's really trying uh, to capture an idea or a message is you first have to engage the imagination. And because if you don't really do that, it really doesn't matter what else you do. Um, Once you engage the imagination and people begin to ask the question, could this be true?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And then that then you get to a place because Romans 1 says we all have the knowledge of God that we suppress, and so what happens with theater is unlike going to a church service where it's personally pretty rationally based and pretty prescriptive in many ways. When you go to church, you're sort of saying, okay, I got to have my guard up if you're not a believer, right? And when you go into a theater, you go in like you go see a film, you just sit back and you let the story come to you. And there's the resistance goes down. And so when that happens, all of a sudden people say, well, I want to know more. And then the Q&A allows for the kind of front brain rational part to kick in.
Oh, we should have more conversations about how
Yeah,
the
yeah.
arts and
We'll do this
theology
again
and faith.
when you see the show.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so as we close out this interview, what is next for FPA for Max?
Well, we've been so busy. We produced the Screw Tape Letters in London,
Yes.
and we just did a brand new play, Martin Luther on Trial, that was very, really, really interesting, and captured a lot of people's imagination about Martin Luther, and of course, it's being the 500th anniversary. Um, and then this piece and the Luther piece and Most Reluctant Convert are brand new pieces, so it's taken a while to develop them. Obviously, being the 2017, we want to tour Martin Luther all over the country, and we're setting that up. And I think that we want to run Most Reluctant Convert in New York as long as we can, and then begin to tour it. So I think that's immediate. We do have plans. We've been having a season of plays every year, and we're developing our third season now that will begin in the fall of 2017. I think we'll be doing the first New York production since first New York revival of Shadowlands.
Oh
You
wow.
remember the film about C.S. Lewis and his late in life wife, Joy Davidman. So we want to do that play in the fall.
Wow. Sounds amazing. So, if people wanted to get in touch with you or FPA, learn more about the show, buy tickets, what's the best place that you can point them
Yeah,
to?
I think the best way we go to our website, cslewisonstage.com, cslewisonstage.com. That has all the particulars. And yeah, so that would be great.
And you're at the
also
Acorn Theater right now
Acorn
until
Theater, 42nd and 9th.
until when?
Very close to Port Authority, right in
Yes.
Hell's Kitchen.
And you're running the show right now all the way through April, correct?
Well, at least to the first week of April, but the audiences are building, and if they continue to do so, we would like to extend. But right now, we're selling tickets to the first week of April.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I know you're really busy. Really appreciate you taking the time today to just drop on by and share with us the C.S. Lewis journey and story that you have with FPA. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person in the next couple of weeks. Bringing my kids, my high schooler,
Good.
because it's right. It's an 80-minute show, no intermission. It's something that my kids are going to appreciate. I think I'm really excited to introduce them.
We've had a really broad demographic in terms of age, and actually in terms of racial mix too. So I've been really pleased.
Yeah, and some of the dads in my small group have started to take some audiobooks of C.S. Lewis and listen to it in the car with our kids, and it's actually prompting a lot of questions. And to culminate that experience of coming to the show and watching this live, I think it's just been fantastic. So, really appreciate the time that you've had with us today.
Thanks, Kenny. Thanks for having me.
We'll catch you here next time at kennyjang.com.